Episode 13, Friends Drift In. Springtime in Appalachia. We'll have a little bit of everything for you today, so stay tuned.
For old-fashioned recipes in your garden and needs, while sipping on Kentucky bourbon. You sit right back in your big red hat, we're taking rural back from the urban. Listen to the stories where Kentucky is proud, share the giggles with all of your friends. You're all tuned in to Friends Drift In.
Good morning. It's episode 13, Friends Drift In.
I'm Charlie.
I'm Joyce. We did that backwards.
Well, that's all right. We're same. It works. We're still Charlie and Joyce, no matter how you look at it, right? Or Joyce and Charlie.
Well, episode 13, 13 has some weird connotations. This is just going to be a mismatch because it's the middle of red bud winter. We're almost to dogwood winter.
Dogwood winter will be here next week. It'll be down in the 30s again next week. So we're going to talk about frost protection a little bit.
So we hate talking about frost protection.
We do.
So it's been this chaotic, last week we were talking about high tunnel production, and of course that's where most of our crop is right now. We haven't got our frost date. Technically, our frost date is April 15th.
Which is it was this past week.
Yeah. So we're right at the last frost date, but usually because we're in the mountains, we're a little bit higher elevations. We get a couple of sneaky ones. So frost protection with the high tunnel. Every morning Charlie's rolling up the sides. Every evening he's dropping the sides because it is in the 40s in the evening, and that's too cold.
Yeah, really with tomatoes, ideally they're 60 or above, but they can stand it down to the 40s. But if you keep the temperature up, they just grow better.
They just grow better, and if they're warm, and you keep them a little bit healthier, they tend to do better. They're just healthier, less prone to disease, they're just better.
They are.
Better.
Just healthier. And that's the thing we're looking at right now. We just put these out about a week ago, so when they're really young like this, you don't want, because they're not really hardened off to where they need to be, so we're going to have to put a little bit of a frost blanket on them probably next week in the 30s. We'll show you a little bit of video of that. We use a woven, like a Peony fabric. There's 4 or 5 different brands out there. I think the most popular is Agribond. We really don't like Agribond. We had some problems with it.
If we use it in the field, Agribond is not our favorite. Now it's not to say that it's a bad product. It just has not, in the field we don't like it, because especially if you're doing low tunnels in the field, which would be growing like down in the fall and into the winter, which we have done and we probably will do this year. When that frost blanket lays on the ground part of it, when you hoop it over your hoops, and it gets that frost on it, it tends to tear. And so Agribond has not performed as well for us in the field. Now, that's fine in the high tunnel. You don't get that frost sticky like you do out in the field. But, with frost protection, one of the things that you need to keep in mind, if you put a blanket on there, it's just like raising the sides. You got to take that blanket off in the morning or you will burn them up. And you sure don't want to, after you've gone through all the trouble of getting them grown from seed and in the ground, you sure don't want to burn them up with the frost blanket over them.
You're right. But the frost blanket in the high tunnel, especially because you'll get that double heat in there when the sun hits that plastic. So just if you're doing it inside, especially pull it off. In the field, it all depends on what the temperature is going to be that day. If it's going to be in the 50s, it's not going to be real bad. They let a little air flow through. They're okay.
And sometimes we have been known to use the really light frost blanket, not for frost. On days, sometimes when we get high winds, we have gone on, especially with our greens, we'll go on and cover them up, because sometimes wind will take all the water and just wither your plants. And so if you keep that wind protection sometimes, it can really, really help.
in the early season with our cold crops, we would put it on top of those to keep the sand beetles out. That helps a little bit with field
Flea
too.
beetles.
Flea beetles, sorry.
Flea beetles. We live in our sandy, on the big
Yes.
sandy soil, but they are called flea beetles. So it's kind of this season of, it's not the winter of our discontent, but it's just that 1 foot in winter, 1 foot in spring, and really wanting to move ahead. And we were talking about on the way over here, flatten the curve, 2 weeks, and here we are almost a year later, and how that has kind of changed our thinking. So what are we doing different, Charlie?
Well, we're doing a lot of things different for ourselves. We obviously more sanitation, more cleaning, keep that up, and really we not had a lot of help on the farm because that for that very reason you don't have a lot of extra people around. You want to limit your exposure to everybody else. Far as those are probably the main things we've done. I think really kind of isolate ourselves more.
It is, and again, thinking about that in between and not quite there and wanting to be there. We had the flood on the farm.
We had the flood, right?
Earlier this year, and we are going to show you some footage of how our peonies fared under.
Well, the peonies have come up, Joyce. They're looking pretty good. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
How many are we at?
3, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42.
So that's about why we didn't lose any.
We didn't lose very many at all.
So I'm just looking at these peonies, whatever you call them, wherever y'all are, and I'm looking and I'm seeing buds. And tonight we've got temperatures that's going to be down in the 30s. It's April 15th, I believe, when I'm filming this little bit. And we're not going to cover them. We're going to hope for the best.
Because we had planned, when we were doing the farmer's market, we always did zinnias as part of our market, what we sold at market. And we were planning for expanding that floral production, and we put out, 50 peony plants?
Something like that. We put a long row of them out.
50 peony plants, and some of y'all call them peonies if you're way down in the south, but peonies is what I say. So we need to check on them. They're a perennial flower, and what we'll do with those probably this year, we won't try to sell any. We'll just see kind of how they do and give them out as florals to our friends and neighbors. But as we kind of figure out what they call the soft marshmallow stage is, which I kind of got to get a handle on. What you do is you harvest peonies at the soft marshmallow stage, harvest them, and you can put them in cold storage and they will hold a long time, and then when you bring them out, they will bloom. I'm not that advanced yet, but It's something that we're dreaming of. And then the other thing that we always do in the spring is mint. And I have like spring in Kentucky, and spring means mint. And man, I'm really excited. The mint is already up. Here it is, April. Of course, we usually sell this down around Derby Day, which is the first Saturday in May, leading up to the Derby, so we can have mint juleps. But they're looking good. And, it's kind of patchy down through here, but you can see down under this grass that here's some of the bigger sprouts, but there's littler sprouts over in here. Here we go. Can you see it? Is it on there, Charlie? Oh, so pretty, and smells so good. I love the smell of mint. There's nothing better. We love mint. It's good money. Of course, it's very popular for all of our restaurants, especially and bars, especially during Derby season. Even though we're 4 hours from Louisville, Derby is still very much part of Kentucky culture, and certainly the mint julep and the history behind it. almost time to plow.
Yeah.
But we've got a few issues. What do we have issues with the tractor, Charlie?
Well, we had the floodings. We've had to redo, we had to rechange all the fluids and everything and check, make sure everything's off. The tractor seems to be in good shape. We're getting ready to start getting everything blued up and ready to go. And then we got to clean up the mess from the flood too. You know, the flood leaves, when it comes through, it leaves different kinds of debris on the fields. You got to walk the fields, pick those up so you don't run over anything with your tractor.
We also have to look for deer shed.
Yeah, deer shed antlers. Yeah, because they would be bad in your bush hog.
Yep.
Or your rotary cutter, I guess is the correct term for that. But the flood got up about 5 feet in the fields.
In part of the field, not all of
yeah.
it. It wasn't it's crazy how it hits, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's settled. It didn't leave a lot of debris this time, just a general look through. Now, we haven't gone down there and walked. We worry about, when we were doing the farmer's market, we were on this really tight schedule, and it really made us crazy almost. I mean, just really a lot of pressure to have produce when you needed produce, because you had market 2 times a week, and the market opened, on Memorial Day, and you wanted product. We're not on that pressure right now, and we kind of are waiting it out, because this is redbud winter, and we have dogwood winter. And then somewhere in there we'll have blackberry winter, and then right after that we have what they call elderberry tide. And that's usually about the last time that we get a flood. So we just kind of wait out that flood. But we've been pulling out some of the seeds that we will plant early, and we've said many times that we are bean people. And when we talk about planting beans early in the season, something that we haven't mentioned, we had some heirloom seeds that were a white seed that we put out a little early last year, and we lost them because the soil temperature was not quite. It should have been okay, but they're a little bit finicky, and they like to be a little bit later in the season. But if you're really wanting an early crop of beans, and you don't want to take up the space in your high tunnel or a low tunnel and fool with all of that production, look for a black seeded bean. Black seeded beans, because of the color, when the darker beans, you can put them in the ground earlier, and because they're black, they hold the heat, and so they go better. They'll grow better earlier in the season, and that way you can get a jump on it.
And we used to do a lot of early bush beans, and those would do really well. I think a Black Valentine was
Black
one of those,
Valentine. We've done some little red beans, some red swan. We've done them several times, and then we do a little bit later. But we like we do a yellow bean that is a
yellow wax bean.
Yellow wax bean it's a fillet bean. We pick it a little bit bigger because we don't like fillets. Even if we're growing fillet beans, we still like them a little full. We market them as skillet beans. But they were a yellow bean, and you let them get a little bit full, and then you just threw them in a skillet with olive oil and garlic and salt, and sauteed them up real quick, and they make a real pretty presentation. And again, early in the season, it's just fun to have fresh produce.
And as far as cooking any of the colored beans, you got to be careful when you cook them, because if you cook them very long, they'll lose their color, and they'll end up being green beans. The purple beans and all that.
Purple beans don't usually hold.
Right.
And
the yellow beans do pretty
good. The yellow beans stay yellow. But, most of them, when you're looking in the catalog, it'll tell you that. It'll say, once you cook them, they're going to turn green. But something else, spring of the year. So you're kind of getting ready for everything. And one thing that I think is across this country is canning supplies, Charlie. Canning supplies. Now, obviously, we have commercial sources for our jars and our lids, but we have had some issues. I've been reluctant to do any styling of photos of our jars with our lids, because sometimes we can't get the same lids, and it's annoying, because I really want them to be pretty, and sometimes we end up shipping 2 different kinds of lids, because that's just the way it is right now.
I think we're back on schedule with our manufacturers now, but now back at the end of middle to end of last year, you had to find what you could find. I mean, the jar that we use is a popular jar, obviously, and we called like 15, 16 different distributors, and we couldn't find them. We even called the factories, and they said, well, it'll be April before they're going to have them shipped out because everything was shut down.
And we're still looking when I go to the grocery store, because I do small batch canning at the barn.
Yeah, we
not for the commercial, not for what we sell, but what we use for us and our family. And what I help my sister-in-law with her canning, and of course Mom helps can for everybody, and kind of share that between the family. But now lids are still nowhere to be found around here. I stumbled upon, I was down at a Dollar General. I'm not a big fan of Dollar General, but I was down at the Dollar General the other day, and I stumbled upon 20 boxes of lids, and don't you think I did not go on and pick them up, because you just don't know.
Well, and that's one thing that's happened with the pandemic is the culture has changed. Anybody that knows how to can their own products and preserve their stuff at home, because you don't know, power goes out, floods come in, all kinds of different things can happen and lose your refrigeration, and the canned goods are still safe. And if I think that's kind of the thing you got to look at down the road. And we've always been canners. We've canned at different levels for years. Years ago we canned a lot.
When we were young and poor.
Yeah. And then,
then we got a little more successful in the business and scaled back, and then
last year we started back again.
Because we're old and poor.
Because we're old and poor, yeah. The pandemic, like I say, if you own your own business, which I'm sure some of you do, you know how it is. This has been tough on small businesses, so you got to save money wherever you can.
As we talk about the changes and that squirrely feeling of, it's not spring, it's not winter. Last year in March, when all this hit, the mentality, we talk about the rhythms of Appalachia and living by the seasons. And so March, you're coming up on the end of winter, where you know that you're pretty much through the things that you're going to have to bunker in for. You're pretty much through snowstorms and ice storms and all, roads not being traveled, and you may get a couple of days where you're stuck with the flood, but not like a big major winter catastrophe. And so most people let their pantry, your pantry is full in August, just bursting at the seams. You don't know what to do with it all. And then by March, you've worked that down and you've got some holes. And of course, there was that panic, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And so probably a change in the way that we think is we haven't let things dwindle as much as we normally would have by this time of year. And I was looking at our freezer, and I thought, we have got to move some of this stuff. So as I plan my meals, and we're going to be eating more out of the freezer and getting that freezer clear, because before you know it, we're going to be picking beans and tomatoes and cabbage. And
so we can we don't freeze tomatoes much. We freeze, but we freeze. We
a
do
lot
freeze
of our beans.
Yeah, we freeze about half and half on beans and canning. Well, I think we'll do more canning this year than we've done in the past. We'd like to find another canner. We'd like to have two, so we can do twice at one time. But those kind of things.
I'm not a big. I can pressure can, y'all. Yeah. I can. Charlie is much more brave at it. I'm very afraid of the pressure canner, and I shouldn't be. It's not that big a deal, but it just makes me a little squirrely. So, but pressure canning takes a lot of time, and I guess I've got spoiled where we're used to being in the commercial kitchen, and we can run 200 or 300 jars at a time and be, we're done a couple hours. Now, when you're pressure canning, and a pressure canner only holds 7 or 8 jars, and you have to run it for, I'd have to look to see what beans are, but it's a long time. It's an hour or so.
And 15, 20 minutes at least, I think.
A long time. I'll drop in a note on that. But when you're canning for that long and you're investing that time in it, it makes you tired quick. It's just. So if we had 2, we would be better off. And something that I want to do that we haven't done is I want to, with with the situations being the way they are, we've been working on the 2 system. If we've got 1, that's good, 2, that's better. So not only do we want 2 canners, but I want to get some extra rings to put back the, what do you call those, Charlie?
Seals.
The seals to put back, so that if one goes bad and I can't find it during the season, I'm not shut down. I want to be ready for anything.
I agree with that. You know, we're blessed. When we built our house, we put in a kitchen because we love to cook and entertain. So we've got 2 gas stoves, and we've got a consistent gas supply at our house. So when we water bath can it, we can run 2 water bath canners, plus we can be processing at the same time as well. So I mean, we water bath, we can do 30, 40, sometimes we do 40, 50 an evening.
Right,
Jars,
at evening, we don't usually can all day long if we're home. You know, it just gets too hot and we get too tired. You know, we can can all day if we're in the commercial kitchen, but over at home, you know, and there's not that need. You know, when you're doing it for yourself, you don't need 600 jars of blackberry jam. You know?
Hopefully we need 600 jars of blackberry jam in the commercial side though.
We're getting ready for a show coming up next weekend in Lexington, which is a couple-hour drive from us. But, you know, so we had to beef up our inventory because we let it dwindle deliberately, you know, trying to just see how things were going to play out, because we had intended to do a lot of shows and festivals, you know, last year, and of course that didn't pan out. And, you know, but we're gearing up for a show this coming weekend, and that's exciting.
It is.
It's exciting to get back out and get into it.
Get a sense of some normalcy in our lives compared to what it's been here in the last year. Lots of things getting ready to go on the farm. This is the busy seasons getting ready to hit upon us. Usually, end of April, May is when our really busy season starts on the farm. We'll be plowing. We'll be planting, we'll be putting up trellises for beans, we'll be doing all that stuff, so we're going to bring you lots more on that. And we're hoping to do some new stuff this year too that we haven't done. We've got a small greenhouse that we neglected last year. The wind tore the top of it off, so we're going to try to fix that up, maybe do something a little bit different with this. We'll do some video of that for you as well.
So, here we are, 13 months out. You know, but things seems to be getting better.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want to grow our business. We want to take you along for the ride as we grow our farm. We are really hopeful. You know, we said that our word for the year was going to be bold, and we're easing into that. So right now we're hopeful, but by June or July, we hope to be bold, maybe even brassy. We don't know.
We could be.
We can be. And I want to give a shout out to a couple of our friends. I want to shout out to Bill McCluskey down at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, who's swung by. Bill has been helpful getting us, when we were getting our farmers market into a permanent pavilion. We were very blessed that he had helped us. He also helped get funding for the Cane Kitchen in Whitesburg, which we are most grateful for, because getting a commercial kitchen the size that we need it to do the volume that we need to do and have the storage area to do it is really cost prohibitive. I mean, you know, it's been our dream to have our own kitchen, and if things go well, we'll get around to that. But right now, we are so blessed to have that community kitchen at Whitesburg, and we thank Bill for that. I want to give a shout out to Homestead Corner, Jenny at Homestead Corner. If y'all haven't ever watched her, she does a daily, like, little short 15-minute video. But she'll talk about everything from farm living to prepping to taking care of her special needs kids. And she's really interesting. I really like her videos, and you should check her out. If you're into farming and conspiracy theories, it's just kind of an overall different take on international farming and how it all is impactive, and the economic impact and the impact of climate and demand, supplies and demand. I highly recommend the Ice Age Farmer. He's got a different slant on things. I don't always agree with him, but he makes me think. And that's something that we talked about a lot in the last couple of weeks, is developing critical thinking. No matter whether you're a farmer, whether you're a business person, whether you're just, somebody that keeps their home, and there's nothing wrong with that you need to be a critical thinker and think for yourself. And he certainly challenges my mindset from time to time.
Yeah, I agree. Critical thinking is something that's kind of losing its way here in this, the problem we've had. But everybody really needs to think for themselves. Think about your own situation and what you can do, and try to think about your future and start to plan for it. We had all this time that people have been out of work, things like that. You got to get prepared for stuff like that, especially like food safety and all that. Now, make sure you got yourself in pretty good shape.
Just be smart. Be smart. So we're going to wrap this one up. Don't forget, we have commercial jams online. It's coming up on Mother's Day. We do ship throughout the United States. We've got them gift boxed. Y'all can check that out online at friendsdriftin.com. Don't forget to subscribe below, like us. Also, please leave some comments. Tell us what you would like to see from us. Each week we try to do something different and trying to keep it real. We're trying to grow that good life in Appalachia. What's your questions about Appalachia? We'll take them. Not only are we farmers, we're fair business people. We'll take business questions. We also we love history. We love genealogy and the history, especially of Appalachia, including the Hatfield-McCoy.
Yeah.
The Hatfield-McCoy feud, which was part of our tourism draw here. What do you want to see? What do you want to talk about? Do you want us to have guests? Where are we? When we get to 2,500 folks, we're going to start doing live videos, and that's when it's really going to get exciting for us. We're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to spring. We're hopeful. We're bold. We're Friends Drift In. I'm Joyce.
I'm Charlie.
See you soon.